So when I was ready to leave the Navy, I was still in touch with Bishop Father Wolterstorff at St. James. He was my mentor because I was told when I left San Diego that I should take something with me from Bloy House, and that's from Father Sadler especially, to study and to read and to give a book report when I came back. And so I was ready to do that, so I wrote to Father Bob saying, I'm ready to come back to San Diego, and I'm ready to be an Episcopal priest, or whatever way you want me to do that. And I've got my books, your library, and whenever you can get to meet me, I'll be happy to give this back to you. And he writes back saying, Dear Wayne, I guess you haven't heard, I am now Bishop-elect of San Diego, and I would be happy to see you on those terms of accepting you into the Diocese of San Diego, if you so desire. And so I got chills up my spine and said, this seems to be the right thing to be doing at this time. So I called her and told her what we'd be doing when I got out of San Diego. First we'd go to, out of ADAC. I'd go to Chicago and propose properly to her parents that I would like to marry her and that she would become my bride as a wife of an Episcopal priest. And they all said, oh, what's Episcopal? So we had a little training to do there, and that was neat. She comes from a large family, and 6 brothers and 1 sister. And we got a party going, and then I could explain it all at one time. So instead of doing it everyone's home, as I was friendly with all of the family. And so we did it at a party, and then at the end of the party we said we're going to be married on April 15th, and you all are welcome to come if you want to. And one person said, no, I'm going, because everyone put in the kitty, and they paid me to go to your wedding on April 15th. And that was one of her brothers, of course, and so I said, thank you, but okay, you don't have to come. And it came out that he couldn't come for some reason.
Right.
But that was, they were sending him to be a witness that this was happening.
Great.
And so it happened at All Saints Hillcrest, and Father Satchwing was there, and he was our best man along with George Garrison. And
The bishop married us.
the bishop married us. His wife wasn't there. Then the All Saints youth group was there. And George Calvert will never let me forget it. Every time I see him, he said, I remember I was at your and Kathy wedding, and we were at the youth group. Father Wolterstorff, Father Woodruff said, let's go see Kathy and Wayne get married. And we all said, what? What's going on here? And so they all came to the chapel, and we had about 20 additional people, uninvited guests at our wedding. That was a blast. And Father Wolterstorff, Bishop Wolterstorff did the honors. And then, when did Virginia come? Was that before? She came to our house. Our house was a little house right next to this church, 15-room house. And it used to be the convent.
Oh.
And it used to be lots of other things before All Saints bought it. But we sort of got lost in the house, and with 15 rooms, it was just a little too much. But they couldn't afford my full pay, so they said, would a house do? I said, yeah, I guess so. Which house? The house right next to where you're going to be working. Oh my gosh, so all the money we saved on gas and things like that was a tremendous start. So we did that. That's how I became headmaster. My first job was the headmaster of the school, relieving Father Treat, and Ken Treat, and then also assisting Father Woodridge, who was assistant at All Saints. And anything else you want to add?
I think you got all that.
Okay. And we had a baby along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And, April, no, that's me, March 11th. Okay. Joy was born March 11th in the house at Mercy Hospital. And we go into the hospital to visit her. And I've got my collar on because I ran over there from school. And the sister says, and who are you? And I said, I'm Daddy. And I got the collar on. She says, Daddy of who? I said, little baby Joy over there. And she said, you are. And I said, I'm an Episcopal priest. working over at All Saints at Hillcrest area. And she said, "Oh, how nice, Father, very nice." Wasn't quite too sure, but got a big smile out of her anyway, and we were smiling too, because she hadn't had Episcopal types being that too much in the labor room. And so then brought Joy home and introduced her to all the kids at school and the church, and that was a big thing. That was the first one, that child they had there in many, many years, since Father Satchering was single, and there were no little babies around. And so a year later, we had number 2, and Sean was born on September 22nd, which is coming up, and where we go for his birthday is one thing that he's liked to go ever since he's been a baby, and that is the Japanese restaurant Shogun. Eating at the table, you know, when they do that fire thing, and he was so surprised when he was just a little one. And he's continued to play that idea with his little ones and all the other ones that we take there for his birthday. Okay, I'm done. What else do you want to say?
So, did you want to say anything about any of the studying you did with Dean Hunt?
Yeah, with, well, I went to Bloy House, so I was one of the first to go to Bloy House and to be received, and Bill Mahidi went with us, well, at different times, of course, but we were there with him, and his wife,
That Mary Maud and
Boone and Mary Maud. Boone was one of my teachers.
Really?
Yeah. And so go a little back further, and when I told the Cardinal that I was going to come to San Diego and be an Episcopal priest, that was my desire anyway. He says, "What courses are you taking in seminary, retreading?" And I said, "Well, I've already signed up for church polity and sacraments and on and on." And he said, "Well, you don't have to take church history because we got the same church history." And I said, "Well, I'll tell one of my teachers that because he wants me to take it." He said, "No, just tell him I said no, he doesn't have to take it." And Cardinal Cody was very strict Roman Catholic. And
This is Cardinal Cody of
Chicago, the
Oh,
Archdiocese
yes,
of
yes.
Chicago. Yeah. But I wanted him to know why I was
Mhm.
leaving.
Mhm.
And
Well, that was good of you to do that.
yeah, I thought so. I was the 5th one to tell him that week.
Really?
5th priest to tell him that they were leaving to get married. So it was sort of the avalanche of priests leaving and stuff. But you're right. He said his assistant was also becoming an Episcopal, changing into the Episcopal Church. Monsignor Roach, and that was his right arm.
Wow.
And so he was highly hurt when he went, but he had to leave, and he didn't want to stay around. Cardinal Cody was also a very hard person to live with, I would imagine, to be a boss
He had quite a reputation.
under. Oh yeah, it had to go his way or no way. And so that was interesting. But again, he knew what I was doing, and he told me he will call the bishop, Roman Catholic Bishop of San Diego right away to let him know that I was coming. Why? I didn't ask him why, but I said why. And he said so the people there aren't offended when you become an Episcopal priest. So he was thinking of both ends. He didn't want to offend them by being the Roman Catholics, so he didn't want me to go into any Roman Catholic seminary or anything from now on. I'm strictly out of the Roman Catholic Church. It was clear to me. He didn't excommunicate me though. He didn't. He thanked me, as a matter of fact, for being a good Roman Catholic priest and Navy chaplain, and sort of blessed me on my way. Didn't say it, but said, "Well, you have to go now." You know, so he had other things to do, but he at least saw me. It was,
Spy Wednesday.
yeah, it was Spy Wednesday.
In the church.
When in Ash in Holy Week, so he found some satisfaction in that. He was being betrayed. Okay.
I like to think you might have been enlightened.
I was the 5th one. I was surprised. I didn't know. Nobody else knows that. And and we, as Navy chaplains, we had to write him a letter every year saying how well we were doing, what we were doing, to stay in touch. And so I did that faithfully every year. I don't think it's go to Camp Pendleton in Adak, Alaska. I didn't tell him I was on the side looking into the Episcopal Church. I sort of let that my last letter to him, I was saying I'd like to see you because I'd like to tell you what I'm doing in the future, and it doesn't involve the Roman Catholic Church anymore. So,
And what made you interested in the Episcopal Church?
yeah, let's see, what was it? The liturgy. I love the liturgy.
No, Father Krulak?
Oh, yeah, yeah. My first assignment at Camp Pendleton was under my battalion chaplain was Father Vic Krulak, and he was an Episcopal priest. I'd never met him before in my life, and he would be saying morning hours when I'd come in the morning. I'd say, "What are you doing?" He'd say, "We're saying morning prayer." I said, "Really? Well, I got to say that too, but it's in Latin." He said, "Mine's in English." And when I'd say Mass or something, he'd always say, "Can I help you? Can I serve for you? Your acolyte?" Things like that. And I said, "Well, if you want, you can celebrate with me." I'd allow that.
Wow, he was progressive too then.
Yeah, oh yeah, in those days he was very progressive, Roman Catholic anyway. So that was neat, thank you. And we kept that friendship going for many years, so now I'm at All Saints. And he comes waltzing in. No, first of all, I hired him as an assistant at Good Sam for a month or two when I was looking for some priest to come in, and I was short. And he did that, even though he's not used to write two. He brushed up and did pretty good, people said. They knew he was a right one person, and they sort of helped him loosen up, and he did the right twos for a month or two. Then he went back to All Saints and continued helping out there. Thank you. But the real reason I got married because I knew you, wasn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
I
and,
guess so.
that came first. She was in the youth group at St. Gabriel's, my first parish. And we did those teen retreats, Teens Encounter Christ, and things like that. And she was in the folk group that I started at the church. And this is an old Roman Catholic Irish church. And folk masses were not the thing with the clergy there. But since I was the clergy, I said, well, they are now, because I like the folk mass and things like that. And so I got the kids to help, the teens to help out with the singing, and she was one of the best singers we had. And we'd have to put bulletins together on what's that paper that the machine, mimeograph machine. I wasn't too good at that. But she's going to the school that teaches how to mimeograph and stuff like that. So so Kathy Bracken was assisting me through the folk mass thing, and that was neat. And then
My father was the head usher at the church at that time. He said, "What's with this folk mass that's going to be coming on?" And I said, "Well, that's the new clergy, and they're interested in things like that." So he said, "Well, as long as it's at the 11 o'clock service and not at the 8 or 9 o'clock service."
I remember that same dichotomy when I was Roman Catholic, and it was in the 60s.
Yeah.
And there were people who went to great guns, and there were people who stayed as far away as they could. It just
And then same with the Exchange of Peace.
Yes.
And that this pastor here at St. Gabe's liked the Exchange of Peace. He went down the main aisle, and I was quite surprised because if the Pope said it, it was different. He would do it. And the Pope said it's blue cheese, and one's made of blue cheese. It was definitely blue cheese. So that was a little too much for young assistants to take that much authority on someone's word, things like that. So when I asked her to think about the Episcopal Church and look into it, because we never dated, so I do not recommend people do what I did. Yeah, I think I'll marry that one over there. But I knew her family, I knew her, and I said she'd go to daily mass, and I said, this is really a nice person. So if I'm going to go marry anyone, I might as well marry someone that has the same values that I do. And so, when I asked her to look into the Episcopal Church, she was a receptionist at the radiology department.
Mercy Hospital in Chicago.
And so she leaves the hospital, and then you tell her.
Oh, okay. He
She
said,
never heard of Episcopal
the
Church.
Episcopal Church, I want to become an Episcopal priest. And I said, well, what's that? I said, I don't know anything about the Episcopal Church. I've never even heard about the Episcopal Church. He said, well, look it up and see if you can do some research on the Episcopal Church, and, we'll talk again. Here he's calling from Alaska, and we're talking. And so I said, okay, Episcopal Church, I'll check it out. So next day I'm driving to work, and I stop at the red light. And the church right across from Mercy Hospital on the corner is the Episcopal Church, St. John's Episcopal Church. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I just went, okay, at lunchtime I'll have to go check that out. And so I went into work and I was talking to a woman that I worked with, and I said, do you by any chance know anything about the church across the street? And she said, oh yes. She said a couple of the doctors go over there, they're Episcopalian. And so I said, oh, okay. So I said, I'll go check it out at noontime.
Did she say she was
So,
Episcopal?
yes, and she was Episcopalian. She was a Haitian girl from Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Island girl.
And and so she said they belonged to the Episcopal Church. So here all this stuff was coming around, and so I went over and I started going to their noonday service and got to know a little bit about the Episcopal Church. And so then I realized that it wasn't much. Well, I realized that it was a little going backwards because the Roman Church had modernized so much, and it was really a more traditional church. But it was fine because it was very similar to the Roman Church. So I said, okay.
The rector was classmates with Bishop Rusak, and I was seeing Bishop Rusak, the Bishop of LA, and getting to know him. That's when he assigned me to see Father Walterstorff, and he said, Father Walterstorff will be your mentor when you go to Alaska. And then, by the way, we are splitting dioceses, so San Diego's going to have its own diocese in LA, and I'm giving you a choice right now. Which diocese would you rather be in when you come back? Los Angeles or San Diego? I thought for about 2 seconds. I said, well, you live in Camp Pendleton, and I live in San Clemente, and I'm more familiar with San Diego, so I think I'd like to be part of San Diego. It's done. He said, then you will be under Bishop Walterstorff. That was a relief. I didn't have to worry about where I was going to go, and I really thought I'd like San Diego rather than LA. So that was a good choice. That was like a spotlight coming on me and saying, okay, you're doing this now, and now you're doing this, and you're going to go home and go to Chicago and meet her parents. When I was a little nervous about what they'd say and what they'd do. And
you both made some pretty big steps.
Yeah, this is all in 1 year too, John. This is really, any one of those steps is a big step.
Yeah.
We got married, I left the Navy, she comes, and without any dating and things like that, we went to as a youth group, and then that works.
We were friends for 9 years.
Yeah.
So we knew each other 9 years.
Yeah, there's still a lot of trust, a lot of stepping out in faith, and God's going to provide. That's great.
I really thought that, he went to Alaska, and I thought it had gone to his brain, because being in Alaska for a year, and I thought, you gotta be kidding, you really want to, move from the Roman Church to the Episcopal Church? And he said, yeah, I think it's a great way to go, and it's a good way that we could do ministry together. And I said, well, that sounds good, I'd be for that. So we communicated a lot about what was going on, but I never really thought that it was going to
in many ways
happen.
It's the old-fashioned romance, because in years past, people did letters back and forth,
That's
and
right.
they would date with other couples. They wouldn't really formally date together until they were engaged.
Right.
That was it. Thinking about it.
I have some clarifying questions, please. What year did you meet? Or approximate?
We met in 1966.
And that was at St. Gabriel's?
St. Gabriel's,
In what?
south side of Chicago.
Okay. What were you doing in Chicago? Is that where you're from?
That's right.
Both from.
Oh, okay.
12 years of seminary in Chicago.
I have to ask you, did you know any Carmelites in Chicago?
Oh yeah, good friend of mine, Mike Flynn.
Mike Flynn? Oh yeah. Did you know I was a Carmelite before? Just 5 years, but I never was ordained.
Okay, and he was a psychologist, and then he came to visit us
Really?
quite a few times when he was giving talks out here.
I still have great friends.
Yeah, that's what he said, that when guys would leave the Carmelite order, they would keep in touch.
This is your interview, not mine, but the Carmelite novitiate was in my old hometown in New Baltimore, Pennsylvania. So, that's kind of my relationship too. But
Well, I'm following up with that by Carmelites, because at La Mesa, there's a senior citizens residence there called The Haven, St. Teresa of Lisieux Haven. And so I went in there, introduced myself, saying I'm the Episcopal priest in town, 2 blocks away from you guys, and if you ever need a Protestant or an Episcopal service, I'm here to help you. And I said, matter of fact, if you want morning prayers at any time, I'd be happy to do that. And she said, I'd love it, because we have some Protestants here, we have Lutherans, and I don't know if we have Episcopalians. I said, okay, we can talk about that, and I'd be happy to say morning prayer. So I'm saying morning prayer there every other Friday. With them, we started off with 15, and we're going up to around 20, 25.
Wow, that's a good size.
Yeah, because I've got a lady that plays the piano now, or a Lutheran plays the piano, and that's the other thing, ecumenical thing, that I've always been involved in, always close to my heart, was to bring the churches closer together any way I could. So, meeting with the Carmelites there, the sisters that are there, and I said, have you ever met an Episcopal priest or done anything, had any services, ecumenical? She said, no. I said, are you open to that? She said, yes. Oh, good, sister, because I think God sent me here to see if I could help you out in that. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm only there for a short time, but I'm going to pass this one on to the Daughters of the King, and they could start doing the Friday things rather than me doing it. That's what I had.
So speaking of ecumenical things, when you were at All Saints, that's when you got involved with
Right,
your
yeah, Father
with
Satcher
Father
was
Satcher?
the ecumenical officer, and I'd go along with him. He'd invite me to come to the ecumenical meetings that were being held in the, and at those days, there were about 50 that were coming to the meetings once a month.
Wow.
From all different denominations, and we had a secretary, we had a paid president. Glenn Ellison used to be the president, but things were going down already when he took over, so we didn't pay him much, just something, gas money or something. But he was ecumenical heart too.
What year was that?
Okay.
What did you say?
When he took over? Or
When you started going to those ecumenical meetings?
Right away. His Father Sanctuary wanted me to get involved
1975?
in the diocese right away. He was sort of proud of our All Saints clergy. So it was in 67, 68 that I got.
No.
What's that?
70.
70?
In the 70s. At All Saints?
That's right, yeah. That's because 60s is when I got it.
Okay.
And who's Glenn Ellison?
He was in charge of the Ecumenical Council and ECS. He was.
So he was an Episcopalian?
Yeah,
Episcopal priest.
Episcopal
Episcopal
priest. No,
priest.
deacon.
Deacon, that's right.
Was
For-
he?
And out at All Souls, he was the deacon, layperson, then became a deacon from All Souls, and then president of the ECS,
Okay.
and then the Ecumenical Council. He died about 5 years ago, before you got here.
I remember seeing the name.
Mhm.
He was so humble. I mean, what a humble guy. I got a call from someone at Good Sam once that was waiting at the bus stop. She was indigent and homeless. Now, how she got my name, I don't know, but it sounded legitimate, and she needed $15 to get on the bus, fill out the. And I said, well, I can't do that now, but I'll give somebody a call, and they'll come and meet you there, I think. And his name is Deacon Ellison. And she said, okay, I'll be waiting here. And so I called Glenn, and he said, yeah, I'll be there. I could be there on the way home. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. Give her 15, and I said, oh, good for the 15. He said, okay, sure. So he goes there, and he was so touched by her that I was glad to see that she wasn't, wasted away or something already. And he said, Wayne, that was our Lord waiting for somebody to help him. And you were sensitive enough to catch that. And we got our Lord going on that bus. And she had a couple other kids with her, and I don't know how she's going to do it, making it all the way. So that was really neat. But that's the kind of guy he was. If someone had a need, boom, Glenn was there. St. Glenn, they used to call him.
So then after your 4 years at All Saints, how did you end up
Okay,
going to
yeah, that's an interesting story.
Good Sam?
I'm on the roof of the garage at All Saints, garage there, and I'm picking up something or mending something up there. And all of a sudden I hear, Father Sanders! On the garage roof. And somebody's calling my name from one of the high rises or something. It was in Father Sanders. I said, no, where are they? So I looked over at the side of the garage, and here's the big Lincoln, not convertible, but classy Lincoln, and it's Father Levy. And I said, Father, what's up? I said, Father Sanders, and then he's sort of shouting in a comedic way. He says, I want to take you to lunch. Okay, Father, I'm sort of not dressed for lunch right now. He said, well, hurry up, come on down. I want to talk to you. And so I got cleaned up pretty fast, and we went to Mr. A's, and I said, well,
Wow.
what's this about? And he said, well, I'd like you to be my assistant at St. James and put your name in at the next vicar of Good Samaritan. I said, wow, yeah, I'd sort of like that. It's been my 4th year at the All Saints, and I was ready to do something different. But the school was doing so good. We had over 150 kids, and we were trying to look for more space to have, so all the other rooms were taken. We were taking some of the rooms from the sacristy of the church and things like that, and putting the senior kids there until we could add on to the school. Big plans. And the school, I was able to get the teachers to be in classes that didn't grade anymore, because the kids don't like to take tests. So it was an ungraded school, but the kids learned what they wanted to learn, and sort of like home teaching, homeschooling it. And the teachers were good enough to do that, and they were interested, they were ready for a change too. So not to give tests and not to grade kids. What teacher wouldn't want that, you know? And I can't remember the name of the philosophy of this that I read this book on. But I got the book for everybody, and they were all into it. So they were doing that for a couple of years. And the enthusiasm of the school board, the school was fantastic. The school board, parents were on the school board. They said, my kid now wants to study. My kid wants to read a book. My kid is writing compositions for his teacher. So it went way up in interest, and there was an enthusiasm there and it was a palatable thing. I could see it myself. I wasn't doing the teaching, I was just teaching religion. But the teachers were really into it, and we put plays on, we had musicals, and a couple of gals were musicians, and they were really good musicians. So it was on a high. And I know Father Santorini wasn't going to like this, going into sort of a competition. All St. James like to think of themselves as very high church, and Father Santorini liked to think of themselves as high church. And but this was too good to be true. I just would love to be a pastor again and start on my own in the Episcopal Church. So I said yes to that. And he said, well, this in the Episcopal Church, it's not a shoo-in. When the rector says something or the bishop says something, you got to be elected by the people. I said, I certainly understand that, and I like that too. And so I was one of the 4 names that he put in to be the next vicar of Good Sam.
The bishop gave your name to
Yeah,
Father Levy.
Walter Slade gave him my name, which was a big thing for Father Levy. He says, Walter Slade gives you a name, there must be a reason for it. So I went through the search process, and it was, he came knocking on the door a couple of weeks later saying, after the interview and all that stuff, so it wasn't real long. I had to tell Father Santorini right away that I was being interviewed and things like that. And he said, no. Right away he said, you don't want to go. You really don't want to go. I said, I really do. And the school's going so well, and he was right on and all that stuff. And I said, the nice time to leave is when everything's going well, Father. And if you can get some priest or a lay person to follow up on this, that would really be good. And I'd help out as much as I can, coming back and playing guitar masses for the kids, folk masses. He'd allow that at All Saints too. So that was a foot in with a little more progressive music. But that didn't happen. I was gone, progressive music was gone. But thank you.
Okay, so you got hired by Good
Yep.
Samaritan, and then what happened?
And then
You kept up with your ecumenical
right,
stuff?
one of the first things I did was I met all the other clergy in the area and asked them if they'd be interested in having an ecumenical vacation Bible school. What's that? I said, well, we would go from church to church, housing it. The bigger churches would house the church, or host the church vacation Bible school, and the smaller churches can feed it, sending as many kids as they wanted. And so we had some lunches together, and we got to know one another with the pastors, and I have to admit the Roman Catholic pastors were very much in favor of it. And can we have it at the Mother of Confidence first? I said, sure. We had over 300 kids sign up for the Ecumenical Vacation Bible School. The Baptists, they wanted to check out the curriculum first. Nothing in there about the Pope or anything. And then we met with the teachers. All the teachers were from the different schools, so we had 30 teachers, and we had to prepare a little bit, quite a bit, to get them excited about doing something that's never been done before in the University City. Our Mother of Confidence was rare to go, and we had it for 2 weeks. Back in those days, that was the more popular thing to do. So 2 weeks, and
a big production at the end.
yeah, they play at the end, and they, as I said, the talent was more obvious when they had 5 or 6 churches. How many churches? Six.
There were 6 churches.
6 churches getting the choir, music directors involved too. So they would come and help me playing the guitar, and getting the other musicians involved. So the kids just loved that part.
And we taught all the music every day. We teach the music to the children.
Yeah.
So by the end of the 2
package.
weeks, they would be able to put on a play.
Remember, one of the songs was, I want to be just like Jesus, I want to be just like Jesus, and it's sort of to a rock and roll thing, and having the kids going home singing, I want to be just like Jesus. I was singing that. We sang some of the songs for...
I'm sure that resonated well with the parents, too.
Oh, yeah, right now. Yeah. What did you say you wanted to be like? You got to act like that, too, little Johnny. Okay, so that was in the day when I was also going to and the ecumenical spirit was still high. I was president of the Ecumenical Council then, and we were looking for ways to feed into the ecumenism thing, because it was going down real fast. No one was coming to our meetings. We couldn't wonder why. Until Monsignor Michelada said, Wayne, I think we did our job. And we did a pretty good job. Nobody's afraid of anybody. We're letting go into their churches now, and when people want to go into any of those denominations, they're welcome. Instead of saying, oh, you're an Episcopalian, you can't come here, you're a Roman Catholic, you got to go to your own church. And it was friendliness and hospitality in all the churches, and all the churches there at the end welcomed everybody to their church. And anytime, come and see us, come and visit us. If you want to become a member, fine, but you don't have to. Just come and see what it's like to be in the United Church of Christ, or in the Baptist Church. It was an American Baptist, so they were on the liberal side of Baptists. And we even, that was a little later on, but we shared youth directors with the Baptists and Episcopalians. And that was a first. And you had to have something special to do that.
And then you brought them all together at Camp Stevens and had retreats up there?
Yeah, we had retreats at Camp Stevens, ecumenical retreats. I was on the board at Camp Stevens. And Peter was just, again, another saint in my book, because I was with him when we'd have one of these rowdy campers, boy campers, take off his clothes and climb one of the pine trees. And he's doing it, not drunk or anything. He was
just being orderly.
Yeah, like a teenager. And so kids are shouting, Johnny, Billy, whatever his name was, come on down. And he's naked. So Peter comes, Father Bergstrom comes down and says, Billy, what are you trying to do? And he talked to him. He wasn't shouting at him. He didn't holler at him. What do you want to do? You want to come down and talk about it? You want a Pepsi, or you want something to drink? Yeah, it's pretty hot up here. Well, come on down. Let's have a Pepsi. Got the guy down in a minute. I would have, what the heck are you doing up there? Okay. Here's the clothes. Put these clothes on and come on down. My approach would have been completely different than St. Peter's. And he got the guy down, gave him clothes, and just didn't even call him. He stayed. The
Really?
guy's up there's a nude, and he stayed. So he gave him a second chance. Don't do that ever again.
That was Peter Bergstrom.
Peter Bergstrom, yeah. And that was just one of the things that he did.
Yeah, we came into the diocese at the same time. The Bergstroms
Really?
started at Camp
There's
Stevens.
so much stuff was,
And yeah,
Mhm.
both Vicki and I had our babies at the same time. Joy and Jen were born at the same time, so it was nice.
And what a blessing Camp Stevens was, just,
Oh.
ecumenism, and for
Curcio.
Curcio, yeah, we got them to do Curcio there. They weren't sure they wanted to do that.
Mhm.
But being on the board, I was able to assure them they weren't going to tear the place apart. They weren't gonna, but they weren't sure because we took over the kitchen, and they were, where's David going to go? What's he going to do?
Yeah,
for
David was the
a week?
main chef, and he was
oh,
And
nervous
he's going to have
about that.
vacation. He doesn't. The salary's not going to go down or anything. And they were concerned about that, which was
Yeah.
a nice thing to be concerned. But we paid him enough money to take care of all that stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
How about ECS board? You were on ECS board?
Yeah, well, ECS was I was on the board of ECS for many years, and again, bringing it down to the parish level was my interest, and being at Good Sam, with a name like Good Samaritan, we ought to be doing stuff for other people. And so I think we were one of the first, again with Glenn Allison, to give the little bottles of shampoo and anything else we can give to the homeless, and give it out whenever they wanted to give it out, little packets and stuff like that. And so they grew with that, and the parish liked it, and they also wanted to do more things. So can we feed them? Can we take a meal down there or something? And that's when religious council then sort of took that baby and ran with it, and taking it into the parish halls and any church big enough to have.
And we're still involved in Rachel's house.
Yeah, Rachel's Center. Rachel House is for women,
Abused women.
abused women. And
it's too bad we
we
still
got good
need
center.
places like that, but we
Mhm.
seem to need more and more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, who is our mystic? Can't think of her name. She was Anglican, and we had a house for the battered women and children named after her,
Julian Zanker?
Julian Zanker.
Dame Julian.
Mhm.
And we helped, Good Sam helped with that, Doria Roeder and Fred Roeder, and a couple people that saw that as a part of their ministry. And they've got other Good Samaritans going on that, and other people were in parishes. And that's when the women's group was really strong. So Doria was president of the women's group. And said, ladies, I got a challenge for us.
I'm going to back up just a little bit.
Okay.
Good Samaritan started out from St. James,
Mhm.
but did it start out as a mission? And
Yes.
And then after so many years it became parish.
After I got there, it was 2 years after I got there when it became a mission, and that's when I could sort of do more things
Mhm.
without Father Levy's approval. So I had to go to vestry meetings at St. James, and had my own vestry meetings at Sam. And I was sort of vestried out after a
Oh,
while. I
yeah.
said, I think you can trust me now to know that I'm not going to do anything wildly crazy, and we're going to try to grow this parish. And we did, and Father Levy, one of the things that he had a thing about was the Blessed Sacrament. He didn't want the Blessed Sacrament to be in the same room with other people were eating. He just saw that as, that's
Kind
not,
of sacrilegious or something.
yeah, not quite right one thing to do or something.
Mhm.
And I just thought, I think Jesus would want to be with people who wanted to eat. And he said, well, they're talking and they're joking and they're drinking wine and things like, that sounds like Jesus still would still want to be there. And I could take it out, and he said, well, if you would do me that one favor, when you're having a potluck dinner, take the Blessed Sacrament out, because it was right in this common room that we're in.
Mhm.
Take it out, put it in your desk drawer until you can go back. I said, okay, I'm happy to do that. I wasn't going to make a big thing out of nothing.
Honor his
Yeah.
concerns.
So, and it was the same thing in Curcio. When he made Curcio, he wanted the Blessed Sacrament room to be, sort of like St. James. And
Mhm.
you would have to come in and be quiet in there and no talking in there and stuff like that. So
It's
he
different
Yeah,
vision
right,
of
sure.
God. Yeah,
And then Curcio was for that. We
It's
had
a-
all different kinds of people in Curcio.
because that's how different people pray. My one sister goes to mass to pray, to say the rosary, and I said,
Okay.
but Audrey, you're there with the community. You pray with them, you know. She, no, it's the way I pray, so, okay.
Yeah.
And how about the different groups that you had at the church, the Bible studies?
Yeah. I had enough to invite, they wanted a Bible study, and I'm a good teacher, I think, but I'm not a great teacher. And whenever I teach anything for Lent or something, they would go, for a couple of weeks we'd have 40, 50 people, and then 2 or 3 weeks to go for Lent, 2 or 3 people would show up. And I think they heard enough of me, so I heard about Bill Creasy in Los Angeles who was packing the places, and the good thing about it, and I went to his classes in LA, and I just get, he is fantastic. It's 2 hours, and it seems like a half hour with Bill there. And so I want to see if he could come to Good Samaritan and talk to the vestry, see if he'd be willing to teach at Good Sam, because it's ecumenical. That was my big thing. Anybody could come. And they were coming in LA, so he came and talked to the vestry, and they were convinced. And how much are we going to charge? How much are you going to charge us? He said, well, I'll be paying you every time you have a class. I'll be paying about $300 or $400. What's that? You're going to be paying us? He said, yeah, because people are going to be giving me donations for the Bible class, and they're meeting at your place, so you deserve to pay for the toilet paper and the Kleenex and anything else, lights and heat and everything else.
Wow.
So what kind of class is that where we get paid? When that was sold to the vestry right away, we weren't going to pay anything. He was going to pay us to give us Bible class, and so they had to go to the Bible class too, and they were still.
Well, I was wanting to go to see what it was all about.
So he started doing it 1 day a week, and then it ended up being 2 days a week.
2 days a week.
A day, morning and evening.
In the evening.
Wow.
Once a week before this.
Yeah.
And we went to the Bible, went to the Holy Land with him twice, and he was as good as he.
He had 500 people in his classes.
Yeah. First class he went to, he had 700, because I remember I was there. We didn't know what to expect. The main thing was word of mouth advertising. Put a little blurb in. I had told all the churches to put a little blurb in their bulletins, and that might have been an added thing. But so 7 o'clock on this Tuesday evening, and it's in September, so it's light out still. And people started coming in around 6:30 because they wanted to get a seat. So by 6:45, the place is full. And when 7 o'clock comes around, people are coming in, there's no seats. So they started sitting on the floor, and in the pews, in the aisles. And I said, oh my God.
Did anybody call the fire marshal?
Oh yeah, I was worried about that. Or, because the sanctuary was fairly new, it happened pretty much within a year of our completion. And
So that's when he decided to do a morning one
yeah,
and
to
an
get more.
evening, because he was there down all day anyway, so
Yeah.
he said, I'll do a morning and an evening.
Yeah,
His name again was Bill.
Creasy. He's at our Mother of Confidence. If you ever want to come,
He's doing it.
a full circle. He's gone to Catholic churches now and had him at Catholic churches. They wouldn't allow him at a Catholic church because he didn't use the Catholic Bible. So that's another logical reason, right? He would use a New Revised Standard Version, which is pretty good. And so I let him use whatever Bible he wanted to, and we have people from all the denominations. How many Roman Catholics? About half the church was Roman Catholic, from our Mother Confidence and from local Roman Catholic churches there.
And he taught in UCLA.
Yeah, he taught at UCLA. The Bible of UCLA is the best literature ever written. That's how he got it into the curriculum. And so his class was always packed, and always, so he had tenure there. He retired from UCLA about 5 years ago. And this class that he's teaching at our Mother of Confidence now is the last class he's going to teach. It's a 7-year course. 7 years.
We took the 7-year course, and now you're taking it again?
Yeah, I'm taking it again.
Yeah.
Because you just sit there and you just soak it up.
And there's so
You don't
much.
have to
right?
homework, you don't have to memorize anything, and he's really got it down now. I mean, after I've noticed the improvement, but the way he does it now is it's more a scholastic method where you tell the people what they're going to learn, and for the next couple hours you go through the lesson with them, and in the last 10 minutes you tell them what they learned, what the class was all about. And he does that every, and now he's got a book with nice pictures in it, and it's on a PowerPoint, and it's really professional, and the recommended price is $85 a semester.
Which is,
So he's even telling me
Mhm.
what to pay. And I forgot how many semesters that comes down to, but, and Mother Confidence is getting that money. And so that makes that pastor pretty happy. He didn't want to do it because of, yeah, Wayne, that's going to take, and my urgent Mark Campbell is his name, and he did it because he said, how successful was it at Good Sam? I lavished on that. And I said, Mark, you're going to get paid for that. Really? So he never heard that part either. So it's a good secret to have,
Mhm.
but people, you know, would willingly give that, and that's why
Mhm.
we're there. They're using up the facility and everything. Why not?
Yeah.
So,
And then, with your other ecumenical things, were renting out the church to,
yeah, well, we went interreligious then, and the Reformed rabbi in the University City area wanted to have start a temple, and it was the Reconstructionist Jews, and I never heard of it before until she came and told me what it was, and she said, could we use Good Samaritan for High Holy Days anyway? We're not going to have that many. Little did she know there's a lot of Reconstructionist Jews out there. And so we went through the vestry, of course, and they said, fine, Wayne, you want this? And yeah, I said, they're going to give it. The Jews would like to know how much exactly you would like, and so they could do some shopping around.
Mhm.
No other church is going to do this. I knew that. So we got some money from that, and they could have the High Holy Days there. And the thing that they did, and the one thing that one person didn't like, was they covered the cross.
Mhm.
I was okay with that. It's a synagogue. It's not a,
Mhm.
it's our Christian building and everything, and they know they're in a Christian building. And they told us a nice story. The Reconstructionist Jew, she was, and she said, you know, we've always been close to Anglicans because during the war in Germany, Anglicans were the only ones that allowed Jews in. That they would come in and they would hide and they would help us get shelter and things like that. By and large, it was all Anglican churches. So you guys have helped us in the past, and you continue to help us now.
Wow, I haven't heard that.
And I asked if she could come and tell my congregation that, because coming from me, it's not going to mean anything. But if you, the rabbi, could tell her that, a woman rabbi could tell everybody that, they buy into it a little easier, and they do.
how about the Antiochian church?
And so,
When we
knock
built
on our
this-
door,
when we
yeah.
built this
Well, the Roman
sanctuary.
Catholics were first.
Yeah,
They knocked
Oh, the
on our
Roman
door
Catholics.
because they were meeting at the Lutheran church in La Jolla, and they got too big. And so, again, we're looking for, we didn't fill the whole church with the 700 seats that were, it's a 700 seat sanctuary.
Mhm.
We got 250, 300, we were lucky. And so Roman Catholic Church comes in, and the priests come in, the lay people say, we're here to beg if we could use your church for our services whenever you're not using Good Samaritan. You come first, whatever service, a wedding, funeral, whatever you have it. If you could accommodate us by having us, because we need a bigger place. And the Lutheran Church was just tiny.
Mhm.
It didn't have enough space. So the Dominicans were there, and they said, we would love to have your church. We definitely would give a stipend, and would like to know this time our vestry's getting pretty good at this. So they had a special vestry meeting saying, now here's what the Catholics are going to come, and they can afford it, and we're going to be giving them not only the sanctuary, but office space too in the other building, where
Mhm.
the hall was. And that's for office during the week. So what do we charge people for offices during the week when they're going to be coming in and using our space? And so they figured it out and gave a price, and the Catholics said, okay, Newman Center.
Mhm.
And the priests were very happy to get more space, and so they used our sacristy and everything. I said, whatever is ours is yours, stuff like that. So it came down to when we were split, the church was split in Fallbrook, and they asked me to go to Fallbrook to help them out. First thing they needed was space. So I went to the Roman Catholic Church and I said, we are the Episcopal branch of the Roman Catholic, of the church. We're not the Anglicans, because he was quite concerned that we have a covenant with you. We're the ones who have the covenant with you, right? That's right. And he says, we would support the Anglican. That's what they're doing is not what we as Catholics support in the Episcopal Church. I said, thank you very much. And he said, and what are you looking to use? And I said, well, we would like the church on Sunday morning if possible. He says, use it anytime except when we're using it. That's the same line I gave them. And I said, okay, I think I can convince them to do something Saturday or during the week or something. But I couldn't. This group of Episcopalians wanted to meet on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, or not, Saturday night, they went by.
Yeah, that was tough.
So they finally found the community center to meet at 10 o'clock. And it was a nice community center. It was a nice part of hallwork and everything. So we worked with that. But the priest says, Wayne, how you doing? I said, well, we're going to use the community center. I understand. He said, I definitely understand. I do the same thing. But here's the key to the church, in case you ever want it during the midweek, or use it for classes.
Nice.
Father Bud, they call him. More ecumenical than I was. And they said, in case you have to stay overnight or something, you feel free to stay in the step rectory. I got 2 priests with me. We got an extra bedroom and stuff. You can always stay instead of driving home at night.
Well, that was great. Wow.
Boy, did I feel good about that. And I told the bishop about that. He said, oh, this doesn't happen all the time. And so I went, and when I got to Fallbrook, I went to visit all the other clergy for the churches, and they didn't like me. They wouldn't pray with me. That's because they got one side to the story. And it wasn't a nice story about who the Episcopalians are,
Right.
who the Episcopal bishop is. So I was able to put a little more information in their minds, saying that this is not true. We didn't kick anybody out of the church. Matter of fact, it's still an Episcopal church, and they're not allowing us to use the church. So that we got it back.
How about when your church, when you went from being a mission to a church? When was that?
That was in 2 years before I retired, or 3 years before I retired. So 1992, I think. We paid off the debt, and
Which church was this?
Good
Good
Samaritan.
Samaritan.
Paid off the debt of the new building, and we had a little fireworks and everything afterwards, using those things they now use in inside buildings and stuff like that, but we did it outside on the roof and things like that.
Confetti, fireworks.
Oh, yes.
We burned the title or the debt, and used fire, and then what else?
No.
We put it in the fountain. Put it out in the fountain.
Then you had we had the church building, right?
Yes.
And then you rented out the hall to the Antioch.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. You kept the Orthodox in here. So the next knock on the door is the Orthodox Church wanted to use our facility and said, Roman Catholics are here and they're pretty much using everything. They're in the sanctuary. Oh, we don't want your sanctuary. We'd like to use a parish hall. Oh, really? Yeah, so take a look.
Well, that is a nice parish hall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's where we started out,
Yeah.
in that parish hall.
And so these Antiochians were very nice, and they would have their service Saturday night and Sunday afternoon, when the Human Center was done and the parking was available, and when we were done in the morning. So,
And how many years were they there?
dang, they were there about 15 years.
You guys almost needed a scheduling coordinator.
Well, we did. We sure
Yeah.
did. Yeah. And because the one thing that was a little hard to deal with the parking, because we don't have that much parking.
No.
And then when the Antiochians were coming in, they were using our parking. And they could use parking, but they had to use it on another parking that was kitty corner to us. And I got permission from them. They weren't using it. It was an office building. And would you mind letting us use it? Oh, sure.
Great.
So, but they thought they should still be using ours. And so we had that's when they were getting a little too big. And we got them to get St. Elizabeth's and Linda Vista. They bought that.
Okay.
So for morning prayer, real morning prayer, on Tuesday mornings, we had the Orthodox, Roman Catholics, and Episcopalians sing morning prayer together.
Wow.
And we would switch it around who would be the leading the morning prayer of that type of liturgy. And that, I felt I was really doing something.
And then you invited the people in the buildings
Yeah.
around the area?
Offices to come
For the
to know about
company.
that. There's morning prayer, ecumenical morning prayer, Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and Episcopal. And some came, of course, but at least being,
Yeah.
word was out that we were doing something ecumenical for the offices.
Not many places would have that
No.
privilege, you know?
And 9/11, they inundated
Oh,
us.
my God.
We were packed, and we don't have a bell there, so I forgot what Dave did, but we got a bell outside or something. He got a big bell, a Navy bell. He was a Navy guy, so he got a big Navy bell, and we rang the bell whenever we'd have service for 9/11, and that was nice.
So you took Good Sam for quite a while through a lot of different
Yeah.
stages.
Yeah, and one of the neat things when we got Bob Nelson as our deacon,
Mm-hmm.
and his expertise as a, what was he,
City planner?
city planner, right, thank you, Dave. City planner, we had him come to one of our meetings with the Orthodox Catholics and Episcopalians. We would like to build something here that would be an ecumenical center and have the three of us, three different wings of the Catholic Church, have sanctuary and offices and things like that. Do you think he can help us out? And Bob went, wow, yeah, we got to do that. He was really encouraging and he exploring. He found out there was 2 or 3 places in the United States that do something like that. One is in Seattle, another was in DC, I think. And he got all the scoop on how they did it and what papers had to be signed. And since we owned the property and they were leasing it or using it or something, he was hot to go on that. And then all 3 entities wanted to do that. And then I got transferred, and it really, it has to be your 3 people all wanting to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Chris didn't want to do that. Chris Chase didn't want to have ecumenical things. So the Antiochians left, and the Ecumenical Vacation Bible School was done. And I mean, I admit it was my dream, and my doing, and but those are the kind of people you have to continue something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't see it as a failure that since I was gone. Chris did some other stuff that's probably interesting for people, but he wasn't an ecumenical guy. So that ended.
So it didn't go.
That didn't go at all.
It's sad in a way, but you know,
Yeah, that's,
God provides another way.
yeah, ups and downs like that.
Okay, I don't know what more you want to talk about.
I don't want to talk about it.
I do have some clarifying questions.
Okay.
I'm just gonna fire them off if you could.
Okay.
Okay, so what year did you, hang on, let me get up to my notes here. Back to the beginning. Okay, you were in Chicago, you knew each other for 9 years. Why did you go to Alaska?
He was a Navy chaplain.
I was still Navy chaplain.
Okay, and what year was that?
That was in 70 to 71. I was
Okay.
a year in India.
And you communicated by phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then how'd you get connected to San Diego and LA?
That was before I left San Diego. I had to see the,
He was a Navy chaplain at Camp Pendleton, he started.
okay.
And then he was transferred. His last
Yeah, so I
tour
was
of
still
duty
Roman
was
Catholic.
in Alaska.
So,
He was a Navy chaplain at Camp Pendleton.
what year was that when you started?
76, no, 71, 16, 7. I had to be 5 years of priest.
70.
70.
1970, okay. And then, okay, you're friends for 9 years. What year did you get married?
74.
Mhm.
74.
Everything happened in 74.
I got
Okay.
received as an Episcopal priest.
You were received,
Deacon and priest in 74.
1974 received.
Mhm.
And then your baby was born the next year?
Yeah.
1975. That was Joy.
Joy.
Okay. This is great, thank you. And then the next year, Sean.
18 months later, Sean was born, yeah.
Okay, 1976.
He's an SEAN.
SEAN.
Right.
Okay, thank you. You went. Let me see what else. Okay, so when you came back to San Diego, you started immediately in 1974 at All Saints. Is that right?
As a priest and as an interim, they weren't sure if they had to convince the vestry and stuff like that, so I drove a cab for
Okay.
a month.
And
And
then,
that was an education.
Yeah.
I got hours to spend on that one.
how did
Hours.
how did you get to, so you were like an assistant priest there to Father Sattrain?
Yeah.
And you were also in charge of the school, headmaster of the school?
Right.
Okay, for 4 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
Most fantastic 4 years of my life, because you got your babies, you're
Yeah.
getting married, and
Yeah.
neat things going on.
And then Father Levy,
Yes.
how do you spell Levy?
Lavey.
Okay, and what year was that he came and took you to Mr. A's?
78.
Oh, I see, okay. So that all happened pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
This
Okay.
almost sounds, I'm sorry, it sounds almost like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty busy.
So you, in 78, were asked and elected, and all that happened in
Mhm.
78. Okay. And then when did you become... So, in 78, Good Sam was still not even a mission. It was like whatever a pre-mission is, right? It was like...
When was it built? I'm trying to think of.
Because it took you 2 years before it became a mission, right?
Yeah.
We
I
could
think
look
it
that
was,
up.
no, I think it was a mission, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a
It was
building
a,
there.
there
It
was
a
a
mission.
building, it was a
Okay.
As part
mission.
of,
Bartlett was there before you.
the first
Oh,
guy,
right.
Waddy, Father Waddy.
Father Waddy,
Mhm.
and then Father Bartlett, and then Wayne was the third
Yeah.
one. But
And you
Wayne's
were-
the one who took it to
Yeah, I
full,
was there the longest in the.
to become a full parish.
Waddy, Father Bartlett, that's right. And we have that in our records, so...
Mhm.
Okay, so then you did that. Do you know when you became president of the Ecumenical Council? Was it soon after?
And about 5 years after that,
Okay,
5 or 6 in the 80s.
in the 80s, okay,
Mhm.
good. And then the ecumenical retreats were happening at Camp Stevens in the 80s,
Mhm.
okay? And then Cursillo began at Camp Stevens in the 80s,
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
When were you on the board at ECS?
That was before that. I was 78 in the early 80s.
In early 80s, okay. And Rachel's house grew out of a ministry at Good Sam, is that right?
And St. James, I think.
Okay.
And
was it 3 or 4
St. David's,
St.
St. David's was a main part of that,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's a Roman Catholic,
Really, I didn't
yes,
notice that.
I think it's run by the Roman Catholics,
Yeah.
Rachel's house, yeah.
And now it's run by the Roman Catholics, but it started
Right.
as an Episcopal ministry?
No, it was,
We-
All
we
together.
yeah, we became a
Okay.
part of that. We were helping out with the other group.
Julian Zinkridge?
Julian Zank.
Okay.
Yeah, that started.
And then when Julian Zankrich is, I don't know if Julian Zankrich is still going.
No, they
Okay.
went
Neat.
back after.
So then it became, a mission, and then it became a church later on in 1992, I think you said?
No, that's when it was
1992, you paid off the
paid
debt.
off the mortgage.
I can find that date too. Okay. I think that's all my dates. Thank you.
And now my business is interim business.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
How many churches? You've
And
been
I got
at
a-
7 churches since
I
you
believe
retired.
Yes, it's
He's been
St.
interim at
Luke's.
7.
Wow.
St. Luke's, St. John's, Christ the King, St. Andrew's, Encinitas, All Saints Vista, and now St. Andrew's La Mesa.
mhm.
All Saints Vista and La Mesa.
And they all know my old jokes by now. I don't know where I'm gonna go.
And because of
I'm
his
sure you'll find it somewhere.
because of his heart situation that he had recently,
Yeah, that's my new ministry.
he's got a different kind of ministry as chaplains to 3 hospitals. So he works with Mended Hearts,
Mhm.
and he ministers to the,
Well, to the heart patients that are gonna have heart patients, have
Mhm.
heart surgery, and those who have had it and need some comfort to know that you're gonna do okay. It's gonna take a while.
Neat.
And you're living proof.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to show my scars or anything.
his battle
Those
scars.
disappear, they even have scar off now.
Really?
Really?
A tape that you put over it,
Wow.
and it somehow mends it a lot faster than you would ordinarily.
I may have that to look forward to one day.
Huh.
I'm a aortic valve insufficiency.
Ah.
So then you look at that every year, get an echo.
Mhm.
So far it's been stable. So.
Yeah, that's the miraculous stuff they're doing now. It's, and the neat thing is I've got little promoted to, they asked me to be chaplain of the New Heart Hospital in La Jolla, right next to Scripps Memorial.
Oh, okay.
I forgot the name of it. It's going to open up in March.
Buildings going up there.
Oh, it is, yeah, and they're not done. It's going to be one big hospital. They're going to start in March, and they want about 20 mended heart victims. Survivors were called.
Mhm.
And so I got to train them, and that's fun. That's really fun.
What are the other two hospitals you're a chaplain for?
Sharp and Mercy, you want Sharp?
Yeah, Sharp and Scripps Memorial and Scripps Mercy. Yeah, those three.
Neat. That'll keep you busy.
Yeah, and it's neat because I can do it on my own time, and I'm still involved with St. Andrews, and it helps them because I can keep
Sure.
my counseling and pastoral skills cued. And,
So after you retired, you went and took that, the class?
yes, I took the class. I
To
highly
become,
recommend that. Tom took it too.
what is it?
Interim.
Interim priest.
And
So
learned how.
that kept him, that's what's keeping him busy now.
Yeah,
Ah.
learned how. And I just want to stay in San Diego. I don't want to do it county or United States.
That's my prayer for Tom too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And he still teaches the classes at All Saints
Yeah, still teach that music class.
once a week
And,
Really?
for the preschool.
you got to come and see that one of these days.
Okay.
And
Now I'm doing it at
also-
St. Andrews too.
Oh,
So I
neat.
got 2 classes of children's singing and Bible, and getting them prepared for Christmas pageant and Easter pageants. And the reason I do that is I remember when I was a kid,
Yeah.
the priest coming into the class
Mhm.
and how big a thing that was, and
And music
It'd
is
be
such a
like
nice
that.
vehicle to bring kids into that. Do you go with them, Kathy?
I
or-
do the
Do some?
Christmas program and the
Wonderful,
Easter
okay.
programs with them.
Now, did you ever have that experience as a kid wanting to be a priest, or?
Oh yeah. I'm actually a postulate.
Yeah, I know. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But being a woman and stuff, that wasn't possible at all.
Right. And then thank
And
God
still
for the
wanna do that.
Episcopal Church. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the eye opener for me when Tom and I joined, because we would hear this woman up there. And to me, it was like, that's 50% I've been missing all this time. You know? It was beautiful, but like your Allison and Lee T. I mean, I like to hear the men preach with that other perspective.
Oh,
So,
we missed it our whole lives, you know.
And then you're still chaplain at Accord,
Yeah.
ECS Accord.
And you
Yes.
are. Wow.
Help with the DUIs.
what did you do in
I
your
help
spare
counsel
time?
the counselors at
Oh.
Accord, and they need it.
Wow.
They just got to decompress with somebody, tell
Mhm.
somebody what they've been going through, and so I enjoy that, and I've learned more about. I'm never drinking and driving. I'll tell you.
Oh.
The police can come to your door, and if someone sees you, staggering or something, or for some reason they think you have been drinking too much, come to your door, and it'll be hours later that they could say, "Oh, they finally got you." And were you drinking at all? And you say, "Well, I guess I had a couple of beers or something," and they could arrest that person right then and there, take them to jail. And this has been done.
Oh, wow.
Serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. So even the 1 or 2, I'm okay with drinking 2 beers a Manhattan or something. But that's it. I don't try to do anything
Yeah.
that would, because they're really, they got to pay thousands of dollars to take these DUI courses.
Yeah.
And I bet these people, they can't afford thousands of dollars.
Well, and worse than
They
that,
can't
I mean,
drive.
they might have killed someone.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, it's coming from Coronado, my sister was here at Lowe's, and coming down that stretch from Coronado.
Summer Strand, yeah.
Strand.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were following a person who was going way like that. Oh, I said, God, how am I going to stop it?
Hmm.
But get close enough to get his license number. I said, well, I hope he turns off into the Coronado, the hotel down, which he did finally.
Hmm.
Thank God. And I wasn't going to follow him there, but if he would have gone over the bridge, oh my God.
Mm.
You didn't mention about being on the Board of Bishops.
Okay.
Board of Bishops, I'm just
Board of
going
Bishops for
through.
3 years or 2 years? 2 years, I think I was voted in.
70s or 80s?
And Joy was going there. No, she was
Late 80s.
What's it, 80s?
late 80s, yeah.
That's neat.
Oh, and I did
And
really
so-
have gone through almost all the commissions and committees the diocese has. Very
And now
few
you're
I
on-
missed.
Now you're on the board of St. Paul's Manor.
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
senior
Cheryl got
center.
me involved in the manor,
Oh, neat.
and that is neat, because I'm getting old and
Yeah.
I need to
Oh.
Might be
meet
living
some
there someday?
Yeah, he's,
older friends.
he's getting a little reserved spot there.